Welcome to the Production Expert Podcast. I'm Ashea, and in this episode, I'm joined by Grammy-winning mixers and producers Dom Morley, Matt Lawrence, and the equally talented mixer and producer Adrian Hall for what we're unofficially calling the Watercooler Podcast. Most of you listening will know that as audio professionals, we often spend an unhinged amount of hours alone in front of a screen, honing our craft and making inaudible adjustments because, well, just because. So in today's discussion, we dive into the importance of having a support team of like-minded peers, just like Dom, Matt and Adrian have been doing since working at Metropolis together. Also how connection not only keeps our perspective intact, but how humanity can actually be good for business. This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed by the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great-sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises, just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelled UNIO. Your mixers will thank you for it. Welcome to the podcast, everyone.
Hello.
For those of us, the few of us who don't know who you are, should we just go around and introduce ourselves? So we'll start with you, Dom.
Okay. Dom Morley. I guess the headlines are Grammy-winning producer engineer. Grammy was Amy Winehouse. Rehab. Also was a professor for a little while at Leeds Conservatoire. Currently just, making records like we all do, and also founder of Mix Consultancy. I'm going to do some shameless plugs, and multiband.io if you want to organise your sessions. There you go.
Cool. Very nice. Matt.
Hi.
You've been on the podcast recently.
I have, yes. And thanks for having me back. I'm Matt Lawrence. I'm a producer, mixer, engineer. Also won a Grammy for Mumford & Sons' Babel. What else to say? I produce and mix and record records, and I continue to do that. Also, a lot of live shows from the 5.1 stuff and Atmos. One of my sort of USPs is doing a lot of live stuff, and sometimes get called in to do Glastonbury broadcasts with the BBC or Reading or that kind of stuff. So I find that exciting, but my core work is studio.
Fabulous. And Adrian?
Adrian Hall, also mixer, engineer, producer. I must be the black sheep of the family, the underachiever, because I only Grammy nominated, whereas these boys have won Grammys. So, clearly the underachiever. But yes, I do what these guys do. Most of my work's mixing, really. Mm-hmm. But I produce bands as well, and occasionally engineer for other people.
But it doesn't sound as impressive, Adrian. That's for sure.
Well, he is an impressive man, I can tell you.
Yeah,
but funny enough, our overlap is huge, isn't it? We really do a lot of the same things, and occasionally, with that, can pass work to each other if required.
Yeah.
And Adrian, you were saying that you've got a combined experience of 90 years.
Yes.
Something like that. I think we've all kind of been doing it for about 30 years.
Wow.
So it's about that, right?
I think
I'm pretty sure.
Close, yeah.
Actually, I think
probably.
almost to the month for me. I think next month or maybe September it will be the 30 years since I got a job at UB40 studio in Birmingham. So
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
As old as I am, which is already very old.
Yeah, I don't tell the bands I'm working with how old I am. I think it's that thing of, because we spent 30 years indoors and not in the sun, I think we're all doing all right in terms of...
Yes, absolutely.
No sun aging, So, they don't quite know how old I am, and I don't tell them, when they're about the same age as my kids. It's like...
Yeah, they don't need to know.
They don't need to know.
Exactly.
No.
It's a funny industry, isn't it? Because in many industries, experience counts for a lot, and it does and should in this, but there is a point in which some people think, I want the younger guy.
Yeah, for sure. It's a fashion-driven industry as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
The new thing, the hot new whatever producers and whatever.
Yeah, I think there's an argument that. So I've for context on this, just in case I mentioned this a few times, because it's at the front of mind for me at the moment, I've just written a book about creativity, and there's an argument that younger people are more creative in a way that they don't know the rules, so they don't have to throw the rule book out, right? So there'll be
right,
which is in a lot happens a lot in the entertainment industry, and interestingly, physics and maths as well. There's like very much. Like Einstein was 26 when he did his Nobel Prize-winning work. John Nash was 21. It's quite often Stephen Hawking was in his 20s when he did his Nobel Prize-winning work. And it's all that they don't know the rules, therefore they don't have to throw out the rule book. But I think that's that's very much elective. And if you're interested in staying creative and doing new things and keeping keeping new ideas flowing, then you can entirely do that and carry on doing new and interesting work for your entire career. So I think that's
absolutely
there's a perception, but you certainly don't have to. As you get older, you don't have to fall into that kind of cliche of
not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd like to think I'm better than I
absolutely,
was 20 years ago. Yeah. I certainly feel more confident. You know what I mean? There's absolutely no question. I mean,
which plays into creativity as well. Confidence, which also does happen as you get older. You get a bit more confident to make mistakes, and you don't worry about that because you've got you've got a backlog behind you that worked out. So it's all right if I try something.
I think it's lazy this idea that young kids are young and hip, and we should only listen to that perspective in terms of creativity, because like you're saying, Dom, if you have all the knowledge and experience of an older person but still manage to keep that open-mindedness of a young person, that's better.
You're winning.
Objectively better.
I think the open-mindedness is key, because we're asked to do all sorts of crazy things by clients, and as long as we're open to it, we go down and explore those avenues. I do know of, you come across some people who are just like, oh, that will never work, or, they don't want to step out of their comfort zone and they stay in that lane. But, as long as you're willing to go on these crazy journeys with people who don't know the rules, it keeps you creative as well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think, I've certainly got a wealth of techniques. If something's not working, I'm not panicking that it's my one production trick that I knew when I was 25, Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, that's not working. Cool, we'll try something else. I've got, loads of other toys and ideas that we can bring to the production, So, yeah.
So let's get on to the water cooler chat, because that's really interesting. We were talking about, so Matt is a bus wanker. Let's just put it out there.
Thanks. Thanks for no context. We should leave it there as well.
I don't know if we need bus.
So with that no context, let's. I'll let you continue, Matt.
Well, I won't tell the bus story, perhaps, but water cooler. I mean, for some backstory here. Dom, Adrian and I worked at Metropolis for many years, and Dom came out with the great idea that we get together once a month to have a catch-up and have the water cooler chats that, some of them seem unimportant. They're not important enough to email somebody or to call somebody about, but if you just chew the fat for an hour, you start talking about the small things like plugins or how you organise your invoicing, or just mundane things that are very important to know, but we don't communicate them unless we sit together and have a chat or have the water cooler chat in a studio. So it was a way to kind of force us to get that process going. And so far it's proven to be very useful, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was a great idea, Dom's, because we're all in our individual rooms. Like I'm in the garden office out in South London. I don't see other people unless I go into town. You know what I mean? So to just chat informally about whatever's happened that week and whatever you're working on or whatever's issues you've found is actually just super helpful. I've learned so much and, picked up so many tips and techniques from these guys. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think it came from a book I was reading, or something had mentioned it as a kind of plan. And there's something I'm slightly aware of myself, because again, just like I'm in a room on my own all day, and I did have. It was a few years ago now. Part of the reason why I got into education, I said I was a professor a bit, is I had a bit of a sort of mental health realization that I was going to be sat in this room all on my own for the next 20 years, and that probably wasn't the healthiest thing for me to do. So I've since then, obviously did the education thing, which helped because it kind of booked into my working life time with other people. but I'm also aware of where you can make that happen. You probably should. So when I read about this sort of idea of having, if you're a solo entrepreneur, kind of in any profession, having a kind of regular get together with people that are at the same sort of level as you, I thought, that might be a good idea to try. And then, because say we all worked at Metropolis, Matt and Adrian were both senior to me very much. They were a couple of rungs above me on the ladder. In fact, Matt was my boss for a little while. So
I think you only started 6 months later than I did, or maybe
you sure?
Maybe a year at the most.
You were a lot better than me then for quite a long time.
Well, no, I don't know about that, man. Yeah, but anyway, sorry, interrupted.
But yeah, so I thought I'd call those two because then I'm sort of piggybacking on their great knowledge still. But also I thought it's kind of interesting because I came up with a few ideas for what I thought would work on it, and then speak to Matt and Adrian first, as they were the people that I knew the best. We kind of talked through what we all thought would be better. And again, this is the advantage of this kind of conversation that we have regularly, is when you've sort of got an idea for something, you bring it to the group and kind of get all the
pitch it
different
to the dragons.
Yeah, pitch it to the dragons. I'm thinking of this, guys. What do you reckon?
The judgy dragons.
Yeah, but we all know each other so well and have done for so long that we could be totally honest and nobody's ever going to get offended or anything like that. It's fine.
Yeah.
I originally thought it would be a big group and it'd be every week, and both of them reined me in on that. I often need reining in on things. That's fine. That a monthly one with just the three of us that do know each other so well would actually be more useful. I think that's key. If anyone wants to do something similar, you want to be able to talk about absolutely anything, which if there were a couple of other people in the group that like one of us knew quite well and the other had met a couple of times or something, you just wouldn't do that. So we can happily talk to each other about rates, what we charge for different things, stuff like that, which we definitely wouldn't do unless if there was someone else in the room that we didn't know for decades, sort of thing. So I think there's certain things like that have really worked, that have made, which was why I think we've been in this for 3 years or something now. It's been a while.
Is it really?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's really good. You've made two really good points, Dom, but I just want to touch on the idea of the fact that you know each other so well that you can actually put out ideas and call each other out if an idea's crap.
Yeah.
Basically.
Definitely.
And not feel concerned or worried about it. And I think that's crucial to, creativity, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, a level of trust is key.
Yeah, and it's peers as well, isn't it? It's kind of, we're all kind of more or less on the same level. Do you know what I mean? So you're not trying to impress, or you're not trying to, I don't know, like there's no trying to pander to the superstar kind of thing.
Yeah.
If Tom Elmhurst was in the group, it would be a different
much as
kind
we
of
all
dynamic.
know him, it
Do you
would
know
be
what I
a
mean?
very different sort of
exactly.
vibe.
Yeah. We've all worked with him and assisted him. So, but
yeah, there's no ego after that amount of time together, is there? We know what each other wants out of it. And,
and we all trust each other. I mean, it's that kind of thing. If I depped a session for Matt the other day, I remember calling Dom to dep a session at mine a few years ago. Do you know what I mean? So it's all like, there's a familiarity and a respect.
And nobody's trying to steal anybody's gig or anything like that, which...
Exactly.
That's really important.
So it's having somebody you can trust to jump in that's not going to go, oh, he's done it like that, has he? I've seen it happen before as an assistant. It's just, it's not nice.
Yeah.
And it's great to have these two guys here that I can happily just pull in on something. And
so what sort of things do you chat about with each other, with the trust there, that you can't necessarily say with a different dynamic?
Money.
Maybe.
Money. Okay.
Right. Yeah, definitely rates or dealing with, I think we've all had management or not at different times. So issues to do with that. Yeah. Dealing with artists sometimes.
Yeah, methods for as artists change, as everything moves on, we have to reappraise how we do things, how we approach a mix, how we approach sign-off, for example, how much extra work we can do. And we
mix revisions
and what's acceptable, what's not. And actually, for me, pitching it to Dom and Aid, if they agree, I feel very confident going to the client and feeling that I'm being reasonable when I'm limiting something or saying something's finished. It gives you, some level of confidence that you're not going crazy on your own, because we are sitting in rooms on our own increasingly more often, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point as well, and I'd like to kind of dissected a bit more as this sort of feeling like we're not the loneliness kind of thing, but sort of just shut off from each other and not being able to actually work as a team and put the law down saying that we won't be accepting these rates. I think that's really important to say this is what we will all accept collectively. And I think that is one of the things that's needed in the industry currently.
It is. It's a tough one because we, at Metropolis, we were able to do that, have those quiet conversations. But where it's such a personal thing, something like the MPG, it's difficult for people to be brutally honest. And within, say, MPG members, there are such different rates
and skill sets and experience levels. I mean, that's the advantage because we're all roughly the same in terms of experience level and skill set. We know we're going to be asking for roughly the same sort of things and amounts and what we're delivering. So that does also help kind of that the dynamic of who you're doing this with does make a huge difference into what advice you're going to get and give and how relevant it is to you. I think the other thing that's quite useful that we do talk about as well, which you wouldn't normally, is like if one of us is thinking about getting into some other field, or like how can we push sound engineering, the thing that we do, where can we find other clients that might have interesting work or things, when you just try to widen the kind of net, then we've each got ideas of how we've done that. Because we all do, we produce and mix, all of us, and occasionally record, but like you guys do the sort of Atmos stuff, which I don't, and I've like got a couple of app, the multiband app that I run, other things. So we kind of do our own different stuff as well. So we can sort of, we've got a wider experience between our pooled experience of how work comes in and how you kind of communicate that with clients and all that sort of stuff. I think that's kind of a useful pool of knowledge to draw from.
Yeah, we're different enough that it makes it interesting. Because you guys are doing stuff that I'm not doing, and it's like, oh, okay, that makes me think,
I should be doing that.
It's just a different angle.
It can be inspiring. When your buddy is doing something, you think, well, I can see him doing it. I'm capable of that. And hopefully we all encourage each other to do that. And we also give all the advice. I think it's fair to say we don't hold back. If there's a thing I'm started to do, I'll tell everybody exactly how I did it. And who to top contact. The fact that we're all on this podcast, I think it's amazing that there's nothing held back by any of us. It's like, these are the tools I have, please share them.
And the overlaps are useful. I remember, Matt, because you have all the live stuff you do, and broadcast trucks and stuff, you mentioned a plug-in to me that, I think it's the BBC or somebody use to clean up vocals live. And it was like, oh, okay, great, I'll use that because I'm mixing a live DVD next week kind of thing. Oh, brilliant. I'll try that out. And it was, okay, it's only plug-in advice, but it's that thing of, it came from a different field.
Which you wouldn't have reached into yourself. Brilliant. You wouldn't have noticed that.
No, I would never have known.
That's exactly sort of water cooler conversation that we would have had at Metropolis. Well, coffee machine, not water cooler, but...
There was outside Studio C, there was a little hang up there from time to time by the lift.
There was literally a water cooler, wasn't there, outside C?
There was.
So this is, you're basically, sorry to interrupt, Dom. So you're basically being the ultimate collaborative partners. You're not seeing each other as competition. So you're not withholding ideas and help from each other.
No.
There's enough competition out there that having your little team is really not going to, that would be very short-sighted to just
absolutely
close ranks tightly.
Should it ever arise, there's nobody I'd rather lose gigs to.
You know what I mean?
Hey.
But I think we're both, we sort of, possibly partly because of our individual mindsets anyway, there's the sort of idea that you're approaching your work from a view of abundance. Like there is enough work out there for everybody, and you just find the stuff that's right for you. And so there's none of us have that kind of protective attitude too much anyway, I don't think. But particularly around each other, it's there would be no need for that.
Yeah, there's enough shared experience and time, isn't there?
Yeah.
Enough water under the bridge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which is lucky, isn't it? I mean, not everybody gets to have that. The guys starting out today in small studios.
I think that's an age thing as well. I remember like when we were at Metropolis, if an engineering gig came in and you were stuck on an assisting gig, once you've been there a few years, and we were all doing engineering, you kind of go, oh, why didn't I get that gig? I think that's just an age thing. Right. when you're in your 20s and hungry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and you don't know if you're
There's
actually
a bit
going to
more
get
of
a
that.
career at that point. You know,
Yeah.
you don't know if it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Whereas by now, I mean, to be honest, I still have moments where I think, I wonder if this is it. You know, if the phone hasn't called for a week, maybe I'm done.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all over. But for 30 years, it has kept on, coming in. So you have a bit more confidence that it probably will still come in anyway.
Chances are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I still get that sometimes when I hear other people's mixes, and you go, "Why the hell did they get that gig? That sounds awful." You know, it's the professional jealousy thing of why didn't I get that, because I would have done a much better job. And that's always, I don't think that ever goes away. There's always that slight competition.
That's kind of healthy though, really.
But
you're just pushing yourself.
but you kind of
that's fine.
Exactly. You keep it. You keep it in check. It's a mental health thing, isn't it? You've got to.
Compounded
Can't
by
be
social
jealous.
media.
Of course.
With people going, raving
So-
about the records they've made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all do.
Perhaps
Anyway, I do. I think I do more than you do, actually. But there we go.
No, I try and post all the good
course.
stuff, and I don't post the bad stuff. The eternal sunshine of the Facebook filter.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm always doing great gigs for loads of money.
Exactly. Non-stop. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But how do you think that affects the industry in terms of sort of just putting your best foot forward and, the sort of happy side of things online and not really showing the reality of the situation? How do you think that affects?
Yeah, I suppose it's
people in
not
the
ideal,
industry?
is it?
No, but I'm pretty sure every industry does it, and it's the shop front. It would be. I don't know anyone that would happily not do that. Really, it's vital. Put yourself in that way.
Yeah. Also, I think if I posted everything I was doing, it would become very boring. Do you know what I mean? My entire feed would be, I've done this today, I've done that today, and it's the same thing. So. Yeah, obviously, it's a form of advertising as well for what you do. So, yeah, you post the good stuff. You don't post.
Yeah, I remember working with some bands. I was, and recording whatever, and I talk about the mix, and I say, "Oh, do you want me to mix this as well?" And they'd say, "Oh no, so and so," and name a huge named mixer. Oh, so and so's doing it for me. Like, oh right, I didn't realise that person would be doing bands at your, no offence to them, smaller level.
Okay, yeah.
I think huge people. Big names have been doing this forever.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't post, or you don't talk about that. You don't put that in the credits. You just talk about,
the big
mega
hits.
stars or the important interesting
Yeah, when
stuff.
you hear that, you always think, I should have doubled my rate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you could afford that, yeah. But then, or did he halve his rate? Did Big Name Mixer actually do it for very little?
That's it. I mean, I know I've lost gigs to people with much bigger names than me and much more experience. You kind of go, why are they in my fish pond?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They should be in the ocean.
Yeah.
Well, that's another one. Rates, as well as gigs you've done, rates are something that, I don't know, we're honest about it, and they can be variable depending on the project, but it's something that
absolutely,
is very taboo to talk openly about.
So let's talk about it.
Okay, what's your budget?
I think the reason why it's taboo to talk about, it's partly because it does vary, because it does depend on the gig. So if I say my rate is X, say for mixing is a certain amount, well, that is kind of different whether I'm mixing an orchestral live concert or a 4-piece band, or it is different because the work is different. And if I'm mixing 5 or 6 songs where it's the same band setup, I can probably do a discount because I know most of the things that I do for mix 1, I can transfer over to mix 2 and I'm 20% there. I'll change it because it's a different song, but the groundwork is already done. So all that sort of stuff, it's like, whereas if I published a rate, then people would be wondering why they were paying more or less at some point, and then I'd have to go through some long explanation. It's like, well, this is actually why, because I'm sort of charging based on the work in front of me rather than some kind of straight figure.
The Production Expert Podcast is made possible using the new Source Nexus suite from Source Elements, the professional way to collaborate over the internet, along with high-definition, low-latency audio and video. Need to record an interview or a podcast, or collaborate with others for songwriting, review and approval, remote editing, and more. With Source Nexus suite, using any browser, you'll get studio-quality audio and video, along with custom-built tools for seamless integration with your DAW. Pricing starts at free. Get your account today at sourceelements.com.
But as in terms of being at the sort of top of your game, do you feel like you have a responsibility to the industry in a way to not do this race to the bottom thing? So, I mean, by keeping your rates higher, you're essentially helping the industry.
I also have a responsibility to the 3 kids I have to feed to not do
that too.
Yeah, I have a responsibility to Santander to pay their mortgage.
It's different.
Exactly. The other thing is we do, so if it's a new little indie band who are struggling to pay, we do respect that and want to offer them a discount, but you just want to make sure that discount isn't now your new rate. It's sort of protecting the fact that you've done a favour and that's a discount from a major label saying, right, that's your day rate, is it?
Absolutely. And I think, I'm usually, I try and be relatively upfront with my clients about it. So if I'm doing somebody a cheap rate, then I say, look, there's a possibility you might get bumped if I suddenly get a call from, one of my only major label client really, but, somebody who's paying a lot of money and expects a certain delivery time frame. They get priority for the higher rate. Yeah. So you kind of go, okay, as long as they understand that. Obviously, you try not to bump people because that's not good.
But there
for
needs
anybody.
there needs to be. I mean, I used to tell my students about this. You pick a rate and you set that rate, and if that rate changes, there needs to be a very good reason why, and that needs to be communicated with the client as to why that rate is different. So something like that would be a great example. It's like, well, I can, if they say we've only got this much, but this one mix, if it takes you 2 months, that's fine. Like, okay, well, then I can do it slightly less because I'm just doing it in my spare time, essentially, at that point, in which case, fine. That's filling spare moments rather than, if you say, need this done by next Friday and can you do me a spare a rate on it? Like, well, no, I can't because I'm risking bumping other stuff off here. So it needs to be, there needs to be a very good reason why it would be anything reduced from what you would normally charge, which again is a flexible thing anyway, depending on what what's being delivered, what the work is, what the job is.
Yeah, and often indie deadlines are not what they say they are.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like being I'm being brutal.
Right,
do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like, okay, you say you want it by next Friday, but actually it's going to sit on your desk for 2 weeks, and then you haven't actually got a release schedule or a plan. So actually it's not coming out for 3 months anyway. So if I need to take an extra week with a mix, it's not actually going to affect your delivery pipeline, which is obviously different from a label where things are, set in motion. There's a whole plan,
Can I ask cheekily how long you put your WeTransfer link open for?
7 days.
7, yeah.
Oh, really? I get sick of refreshing it, so it's the default month for me.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm being a bit of an idiot here, but if someone hasn't downloaded it in 7 days, I want them to have to ask me for it again.
Tom, that's slightly...
okay.
I mean,
nice.
If they've told me... Well, if they've said how urgent it is and you've stayed up till 2 in the morning to get it over the line for Friday, and then on next Thursday it still hasn't been downloaded.
I'm sort of owed an apology at that point.
I find those emails quite amusing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm, as you guys know, because we had a thing about this not that long ago, I've got a very long-running project with an artist who I love and who's brilliant, but it's been kind of, there'll be months without email contact, and we're in the middle of a project, it's a live album. So it's that kind of thing of, but
depends on the client though, doesn't it? Yeah, because if you truly know somebody's busy or they have a lot going on, I'll happily put 3 months or a month or whatever maximum, because I know they're just busy and that's we're going to work together.
And I'm not going to chase them every week. Do you know what I mean? With an email, it's like, okay, well, it'll become a priority when it is a priority.
But as long as they communicate that, I think that's the respectful part here. Definitely.
Yeah, sometimes if you're dealing with artists, there's, I don't know, maybe I'm being too diminutive about it. That's the wrong word, but
nice.
It's like kind of nice. Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, they are the artist, so it's. I'm aware that I'm in a service industry in a way, despite it being creative. Yeah. It's like, okay, like I say, it'll become a priority when it is for them, and then we'll finish the album.
And though I'd never really thought about this, but we did spend the start of our careers just working with huge artists.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that shaped how things are now. You know, when you go freelance and become a producer rather than an in-house guy, you know, you work with smaller and smaller artists. And I think it's taken me quite a few years to get used to that. And is that partly because they're small artists that they're different, or has the world changed? Are people wanting things differently and more immediately than they used to?
It's funny. Go on. Sorry, Dom. I was just going to say, like, actually, in terms of like creative decisions and stuff, how can I put this politely? The bigger artists or the ones who have more experience know what they want.
Yeah.
So or they know when they don't like something, they're not afraid to voice it. So sometimes actually it's more difficult with the younger artists who don't have that experience in the studio. They maybe don't trust what they're hearing, or they don't necessarily have that much of a creative
they're just not
direction
sure
themselves.
If they like it or not.
They're not sure, yeah. So actually, when I work with bigger artists and they tell me they don't like something, I mean, it's often quite the opposite of what you'd think. Like, the bigger artists give me more leeway.
Yeah.
I think because everybody knows that it can be changed and it's not the end of the world if they don't like it. I'm always trying to interpret what the artist means, because like something simple like a vocal level, they might say, oh, the vocal's too loud. And you go, and you're listening and you go, well, I know it's not too loud, so what is it that's bothering
it's a frequency
them? Is it that it's too, it's a frequency thing. Is it too boomy? Is it too edgy? So often when people ask me to turn stuff up or down, or, you know, the bass is too boomy, well, is it too boomy, or is it, do you want it quieter?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Or is it in balance with the guitars? Is there an issue there
Exactly.
So it's important not to take it literally what the artist is telling you, but interpret.
Yeah,
what
maybe it's a terminology
absolutely.
thing from young artists. They don't know the studio parlance and what to say. So when you're working with an experienced artist, they've been in studios for maybe decades. They know exactly how to describe what they want.
Yeah.
And I kind of find it interesting with a newer artist who doesn't know any of that language, and you're almost having to come to their language and get into their head and really fully understand what they mean. And as you said, it might not be what they're actually saying. You're just learning to interpret each new person you work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I think our EQ is very high, isn't it?
Love the pun. Loving it.
It was an accidental pun.
Pun entirely intended.
Yes, indeed. So, who wrote about mobile phones in the studio? Was you, Adrian?
No, it's me. I actually wanted to talk about that because it's something that's been on my mind, and I wanted to see what everybody thinks, because I have an album coming up, and what I miss is the focus that we all had. Say, I was an assistant in a residential before Metropolis, and there were no phones then, and everybody would sit in the control room all day. So everybody was part of it, and everybody was super focused. They maybe were reading a magazine, but certainly not the distraction that phones have. And my question was, how do we tackle this? Is it it's a different thing? Is it a bad thing? But I do feel, say it's a band, the band as a whole aren't nearly as focused on the record that you're putting together in front of them as they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
A good point.
Yeah,
I think the better approach, ideally, is because, like, if say you're recording, this is just throwing me back to recently. I was in Rack and British Grove recording kind of string things and brass and stuff.
Nice.
Which is great. That went on the Instagram. So my phone, because obviously on those days, I mean, particularly if you've got 30 channels of a vintage desk going at once, you are permanently focused because you're waiting for that crackle, which will inevitably come from a channel that's died. So for those days, my phone was somewhere in my bag, I don't know where, but there was no way I could focus on anything else because I would miss something that I was paid.
No,
I was paid to be there to spot, right?
Completely. But I think I'm more talking about the band, Dom.
I know, but ideally, everyone has that approach, isn't it? Everyone has the approach of, while we're here and recording, let's just put those to one side and sit there and focus on it. And
Have you met some of my clients?
And then have those moments of quiet when we can go, there's when we're having a cup of tea or something, you can flick through and just check if you've got any messages. But I suppose maybe I am being a little bit utopian here and saying that everyone's going to do the same as what we have to do.
My experience has been wildly different to that. At times, there are people who are focused, but then, partly younger people, but there are people now, when you're talking, it's in life anyway, you're talking to somebody and they're looking at their phone saying, It's so infuriating. But they're definitely, when they're on their phone and you're kind of working on a complex vocal part and then they disagree right at the end because they've been busy on it's just frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't know if has anyone tried to have a phones off period in the studio? Because I'm sort of thinking about this project coming up. I might do sort of 3-hour sprints where we all leave our phone over there just for 3 hours. Nothing's going to change too wildly. You can pick up your messages in 3 hours. And I'm interested to see whether that gives us more focus.
Well, I would assume, I can highly assume that it would give you more focus.
I would.
It's particularly frustrating if you're trying to get an idea and work on something if someone's not completely paying attention.
And they're somewhere else. Something might have happened on their Insta and they're just not present. And I do think the art of the music is suffering currently because of that. Of course, loads of other things in the world are suffering because of this, but just within studios only, I don't think it's helpful.
I kind of know what you mean. I'm going to play devil's advocate and say sometimes I don't want all the band's opinions on when I'm doing this. So, you know what I mean? I don't need the drummer's opinion on the harmony guitar part. Do you know what I mean?
That always used to be the drummer was always their previous social media.
Yeah.
And you had skills to tune them out, or every now and then the drummer had something interesting to say about the harmony.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
fair
I do
enough.
think the collaborative nature of making records as a band does evaporate when it's like, it's not my turn to do something, so I'm gonna
zone out. And you might as well be emailing parts around the world, and it touches on that. Is that less creative? I think it is. Everyone's not together. It's not that thing where you're greater than the sum of your parts when you're all together as a band.
When you
have that homogenized sound.
However, I'm going to play devil's advocate now.
Go.
Because, there's some people, the dynamics in the room, some people sort of tend to dominate sort of a group setting and maybe their ideas, and people feel sort of intimidated by them for maybe good reason. Whereas, or the shyness as well that some artists I see have, a lot of the time, sometimes just being at home on your own and being able to be sort of slightly anonymous and not being watched can actually produce some really good results because you're not in the room being looked at when you're doing it.
Agreed. There are examples of that, but I think part of our skill set, and I'm sure I can speak for the other guys, but part of our superpower is identifying the shy person in the room and helping to steer the dynamic of the group in order for them to have their say in a way that they're comfortable to do so. I can always tell when there's a shy person there, and I can sense when they have an idea, and it is possible to structure the session such that they do feel a lot more free,
feel more
to
comfortable
speak.
to throw that in and see what happens.
And that's a skill we'll all lose if we do this individual stuff more and more.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, good point.
And having the band in the room and making decisions collectively, talking about tracking sessions off the floor, I think, I think part of the reason that doesn't happen so much is obviously budget. Do you know what I mean? So inevitably, because budgets are lower, we end up working in rooms that can't accommodate everybody at once. So,
but there's the crazy thing with budget aid where when you do it with the band all in the room, anything you do, you kind of have sign off immediately, right? And you move on. And I've been
assuming they're paying attention and all the rest
in
of
my
it.
In my phones off studio session, they will be aid. I can tell you that much. But you progress.
The last time I had a band in, it was kind of like, it was one of those things where they're excited to be there, they're chatting away, not really paying attention. You're actually having difficulty communicating with the person in the booth because there's conversations going on behind you. Do you know what I mean? It's like, sometimes it's, again, being devil's advocate, sometimes it slows you down as it's more distracting to have them there. I think when you're doing really detailed work.
Yeah. It's partly that lack of experience of being in that scenario and realizing that you are actually involved in the room. Like everybody's involved here. We're not waiting. This isn't a waiting room for you to then do your bit. This is
No.
this is everybody working together on.
Yeah, and it's distracting for the person in the booth if every time I hear the talkback, they hear laughter and conversations
absolutely.
coming down
Yeah.
the talkback as
Particularly
well.
laughter. If somebody's insecure and they hear laughter, that's the
Yeah,
worst
yeah.
thing.
Well, or I think it's just the idea that whoever's in the control room isn't paying attention to what you're trying to create, the art you're trying to create in the booth. I think that can be off-putting. Not just for singers, I'm talking anybody,
Yeah, but I find if people are focused, they tend to, if you can have their focus, then they wouldn't be doing that. They wouldn't be laughing.
yeah.
Or if they were laughing at a joke that just happened, you're skilled enough to bring that person on the other end in on
Into the
that joke
joke
so
to
that they
explain.
won't
Yeah,
feel
okay,
that way.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure.
And with budgets, just to touch on that again, is I'm just finishing up a project now where I've revisited it 7 or 8 times. It's going to cost significantly more because people haven't been together and present in one 3-day stint.
Mm-hmm.
So I've
Right.
seen many examples where people trying to save money by doing things individually actually leads to much more confusion, not just budget, it leads to just different parting of ideas. One person wants one spur of the record, another, and it can get quite confusing and quite muddled.
Yeah. Well done for dragging it out for 7 or 8 revisions. That's great, man. 7 or 8 times the fee.
Well, I
Fabulous.
know, but I kept saying, please, I don't want to be doing this. I really don't want to do this. I'd love us to, And when you're, for all of us, when you're on revision 7 or whatever, the chances of things going wrong increase as well.
Yeah.
You'll find it hard to be as focused.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a sort of time frame where the idea is exciting and fresh, and then if you overwork it and leave it to drag on, it just becomes stagnant and boring, and you kind of lose?
There's a spark, definitely.
Yeah. And also the record suffers because of that, because you keep tweaking things and it sort of just loses that spontaneous life that it had at the beginning.
Compromise is not always a good
there's
thing.
two spurs.
In fact,
There's the kind of the Van Morrison spur of the moment thing, and then there's the Seal perfection, and the sort of 2 different types of records. So it's not necessarily that one's good, one's bad, but depending on the music, really.
And I think most people prefer somewhere in the middle. I think where there's been a thing captured and we've run with it, but we haven't then spent 6 months wondering if the hi-hat should be 1 dB louder in the second verse.
Yeah.
Which was a mix once that I saw on a a mixed revision. Hi-hat 1 dB louder in the second verse. Amazing. That's a number 1 record right there.
Yeah, they'll sell another 10,000 copies. Yeah.
I love it when a record comes on in, say, Sainsbury's, that you're paying for something and you think, oh, I did this, and you think, I remember fussing about something to do with this. But from where I'm standing, I don't know that we needed to spend 2 days on whatever it was.
Yeah. And then I remember I heard a very massive record and in a bar, and I thought, wow, that is astonishing. That is a terrible mix. That's
really?
The balance is all wrong. Oh yeah, it's a big record as well. And you kind of go, wow, that shaker is louder than the lead vocal. That's wow.
Yeah.
I mean, massive worldwide hit in the 80s. You kind of go, wow.
Works.
It really doesn't matter. Yeah.
Because the other thing that I do find useful, and maybe it's a bit pedestrian, but I do find it useful that we do talk about, I've just found this new plugin and it's great. Because there's a lot of that about, and the thing is about it, there's a lot of noise, and we all see the adverts, that's inevitable.
Yeah.
But, and so we read the marketing sort of speak of it. But it's much more useful to have someone, who and who works at the same sort of level as you, to say, this actually made a difference to the last mix I did. This is really useful.
This is worth doing.
Yeah, I like this one. So
actually, something I miss on that track from Metropolis is that I didn't have to read sound on sound or those types of things anymore.
You'd hear it. Yeah.
So many of us, the information would come to me, and if I was busy, it would just happen. I would be up to date. I would know everything.
And we were very fortunate in that we were obviously every day interacting with big artists, producers, engineers.
Yes, and there were 8 assistants or engineers.
Exactly. So
there's a lot of dissemination.
Yeah, we were a kind of nexus of a lot of information flow in that building. But But we have our own small version of that, and it is infinitely more useful than just seeing the ads, having somebody say something, even sometimes a plugin that you've never heard of, and it has been really useful for somebody. Then it's like, but also what's quite good as well on the other side of that, the sort of reverse of that is we will often come to one of these conversations with an issue that we've got. And someone will have a solution because they've had that problem before. And these can be things that you don't necessarily... You could ask on a Facebook group or something, but you maybe don't want to put in the public domain the sort of, I'm struggling with this thing. That's
sometimes what you do is private, isn't it? How you fix it. You just... I remember seeing some big mixers, big producers showing me stuff like, really? That's almost a bodge. Yeah, that's fine. Don't worry. That will be fine. And it's absolutely not something they'd ever say publicly and certainly not put on social media.
But it worked for them for years and, it worked on hit records and it was just it was a good solution. But a bodge.
So the sort of, actually the privacy of, or relative privacy of the Watercooler chat, or certainly our chats, means you can just speak freely.
Yeah,
and just say, that'll do.
Like, it doesn't even have to be technical. I mean, I remember asking you guys about, this whole making tax digital thing, how you do your accounts, how you keep track of invoices and stuff. Because I'm like, I don't want to waste time trying to find a solution of my own. It's like, well, I'll ask you, what are you guys using? What's your accounting software? How do you keep track of all this stuff?
Which is, if you did a Google search for that, you'd get 6 million responses that wouldn't be relevant to you.
What's the best thing for what I do? And, a lot of sole trader stuff obviously doesn't necessarily apply to businesses like ours.
No.
It's also keeping that intrigue alive and, of the industry secrets. And I think we're very obsessed these days with, uncovering behind the scenes and demystifying the process. But sometimes it's nice to keep a little bit of the process hidden, which is essentially what you're doing. You're kind of, you're saying, well, we can keep it between us, but this is not going to be in the public domain because this is sort of like a rite of passage in a way. You've kind of earned that right to keep those secrets to yourself.
I don't think it's so much about keeping. I don't see much about we're not sort of gatekeeping things in those terms. And it's more just like. You can be completely, what's the word I'm looking for?
Honest.
Honest and vulnerable, I guess maybe is the other word. It's like you can say, something that no one would want to put online is something like, I totally messed this thing up yesterday and I'm today trying to rescue it. Which happens to literally everybody, and literally no one will say that online because...
No.
So why... that you've hit another really interesting point, and perhaps it's not necessarily just music focused, obviously, but why is everyone so scared of being vulnerable and admitting fault?
I think to do it online, where it could be permanent and taken out of context and shown back at you, I think the format itself means... people are never going to want to do that. It would be wildly, dangerously unprofessional, I think, potentially.
It could be the one thing you got remembered for example, if it ended up as a local to your industry or group meme, and that's the last thing that you'd want, when that's not reflective of you as a person or as what you do as for a living or any of those things, you don't want that to be the thing that you're remembered for. Therefore, that's part of why everybody curates their online life so fastidiously, is so that if something did kick off, go viral or whatever, at least it'd be something that you wanted to do that rather than something that you didn't.
That makes sense. I mean, in an ideal world, no one would fear making mistakes, and so it would kind of take the sting out of it. But I suppose we're definitely not living in an ideal world.
No, and to be honest, I will, offline, I'll talk about it all the time. With my students, I talk about it all the time, and I do talk about the importance of failure. I've got a whole chapter on it in my book about failure and the importance of that and embracing that in the context of being creative. And you have to be prepared to fail at a lot of things, but that doesn't mean that you're expected to advertise it. It's more that you do, and also I think it's kind of unhealthy to advertise it anyway because you don't want to focus on that. The important way of using failure is you use it to learn and move on, rather than wave it as a flag of look what I've done. It's a brief lesson that you moved on from.
This podcast is sponsored by Genelec. If you've ever been disappointed by the way your mixes sound on other playback systems, then check out Genelec's Unio monitoring ecosystem. By providing a seamless bridge between loudspeaker and headphone monitoring, Unio allows you to quickly create great-sounding mixes that translate consistently wherever you choose to work. No more guesswork, no more surprises. Just truthful, accurate audio monitoring from stereo to immersive. To find out more, visit genelec.com/Unio, spelled UNIO. Your mixers will thank you for it.
It's interesting to talk about failure in terms of like making a record, because it's not that, you know, failure is maybe a bit of a strong word. It implies that, you know, it might not have been exactly how you wanted it to be, but there are compromises involved. You know, like, you know, there's mixes have gone out that I've gone, you know, I wish, you know, I wanted to do this and that, and the artist wanted it a different way. So it's not a failure. It's kind of like, it's the nature of working with other people, is it's not going to be exactly how you want it.
I'm thinking more of on a micro level where, you know, you try something and it doesn't work and then you move on and do something else. Right. Rather than like I've never considered an entire record or mix or project to be a failure. It's just it's more like an individual moment where you go, I thought that was going to be great and it's rubbish, so I'm going to do something else now.
Yeah. I mean, I've listened back to, you know, productions of mixes I've done and gone, I wish. It's usually, I wish that we'd have been bolder with something. Yeah. You know, and either myself or the artist was like, you know what? They reined in the more creative or crazy ideas because somebody was worried about, you know, whatever, Spotify playlists or radio play or whatever. So the extreme stuff gets kind of tamed down.
Can you give some more examples of that? Because that's a fascinating...
Well, I mean, definitely like mix revisions.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So sometimes the thing that sticks out and jumps out of a record is what makes it interesting. You know, something's just that little bit too loud.
Like the shaker,
or the shaker, yeah. I will tell you which record it is later, and you'll listen to it and go, oh my God.
It's the loudest shaker in the world.
It is the loudest shaker in the world. But even things like, you know, the guitar sound was really edgy and really kind of grabbed your attention, and then it's gradually gets all the rough edges get smoothed out.
Yeah.
Which, you know, if you're making a smooth record, it's great. You know, but actually sometimes that's what makes something exciting. You know,
when it's a committee, and there's loads of examples, aren't there, where people go back to mix one. You know,
God,
the big mixer
it's not necessarily even mixing, it's production as well. Do you know what I mean? Actually, that crazy distorted drum loop in the second verse was really cool, and, you know, they've just played it safe.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or that idea that the the drummer had for the middle eight actually was really good, and
because
now
it's
a bit...
It was great.
Yeah, because the drummers, you know, and whatever.
I think it's just, people need a bit more, one, getting used to, and two, a bit more confidence in their... In what they put out.
Sometimes the thing that's new and different, just because it's new and different, is rejected.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, actually sometimes what I find with mix revisions, particularly, is it's like I'll get the first thing back, and if I get an email back within the first, like, half an hour, I'm kind of going, you know what, just keep listening. Come back to me tomorrow or in 2 days' time.
I normally put that when I send it to them. I normally say, let me know, like, after the weekend or in a couple of days, and try and plant that seed of, like, live with it. Don't instant reaction is not necessary. Sometimes it's the right call, but you'll know it's still the right call if you still feel like that in 2 days' time. Whereas if you've lived with it and got to grips with where the sort of conversation the mix is supposed to be having with the music, then you might see it a different way and embrace the creative.
And it's kind of a bit related to demo-itis as well, I think. Do you know what I mean? Because they've heard the older version for so long, anything that's new is wrong.
Yeah. There's a big name producer who once said to me about demo-itis, he tells the band, you've heard your demo 100 times. Go and listen to my mix 100 times, then tell me how you feel about it.
That's
it's kind of true.
Because obviously.
But I'm a big fan of sleeping on it. At least sleep on it and hear it the next day as well. It solves for a lot.
Striking that balance between the spontaneity of, you know, the idea and the kind of dynamic aspect of it, and then the perfection part. So you don't want to over perfect it, like we're saying, but you also don't want to just go with that first. Okay, this is great, we're going to go with that idea. So it's sort of just keeping that balance, which is really difficult.
It's hard to know when you've overcooked it, isn't it? There's not a sort of it's not a definitive thing that suddenly happens. It just has become overmixed or overproduced.
Yep.
There can be quite a dangerous kind of romanticism about, and this isn't just us, lawyers do the same, about staying late and it having to go to the wire and all that sort of stuff, and therefore it was something great, and aren't we?
Yes.
And it's like, that just means you did it wrong. Like, you shouldn't still be there at 2 a.m. You've messed up. That's not you are definitely not at your best when you've been in the studio for 16 hours. You are not making great decisions.
I mean, there is this kind of traditional thought process that if it's hard and if it's really grueling and difficult, then it's good.
So
and if
wrong.
it's easy.
So wrong. Yeah.
I mean, it's the bands that have written the song in 2 minutes and don't think there's any value in it.
And that's their biggest hit always.
That's the hit.
Yes.
Didn't overthink it.
And I remember making a record with like a really great guitar player and songwriter, and he was the main guy in the band. And we're just doing guitar takes, a couple of weeks into the project. And he really wanted to feel like this guitar take was the one. It was like a basic rhythm guitar part. He's a phenomenal player. So I left him alone with the Pro Tools because he knows how to operate it, doing his own takes. I'd set him up and stuff. And I'd come back every half an hour or whatever and check on him. He spent the whole day doing one rhythm guitar part. He did about 40 takes. And like honestly, I couldn't tell the difference between once he got to take 2 or 3 and he'd got the part, it was no different than take 40. But it's that insecurity of, I'm not sure this is perfect. But also this idea that he had to feel it be great. And it was that, he wasn't trusting his own playing. He is a great guitar player. So just trust the fact that you're really good at what you do, deliver a performance.
I think there's partly, there is a perception problem that people run against. So I quite often tell people this story because I think it can be quite useful. And it's the difference between how you perceive other people's work and your own. The analogy that I heard that I love is do you know Chris Addison, is sort of director, comedian, writer?
Thick of it chap.
Yeah, really tall guy. Did In the Thick of It and direct a lot of Veep, if you've seen either of those comedies. But anyway, he tells a story about a theatre having 2 doors, right? So there is a front door to a theatre, which has got brass handles and stained glass, and the carpets are thick and soft, and you get a glass of champagne at the bar, and somebody holds the doors open for you, and usher takes you to your seat. You sit in a deep plush seat, and then the curtains open as the lights dim, and you watch the performance, and it's brilliant, right? And then there's another door, which is the stage door, which you have to kick to open because it's not been fixed for a long time. And then you almost trip over the boxes that should have been put away ages ago, probably a fire risk. And then you bump into the actresses running around because she's lost some of her costume, so she's making up a new one on the spot. And then there's the guys that are gaffer taping the back of the scenery together because last night it fell down and they haven't got time or money to put it together properly again. And so there's all this, it's being held together with glue and hope at the backstage. And then they go on and they do their performance and they got one of their lines wrong, but they kind of improvised something that kind of works and everyone seemed to enjoy it anyway, and maybe nobody noticed. And then they go back and leave through their respective doors. And the guys that leave through the front door had a brilliant night, and the guys that leave through the stage door went, it kind of went okay. And it's just because they saw the gaffer tape and the glue and the hope, and the people in the plush seats didn't. And so we all look at other people's work via those nice soft seats and think, wow, that's incredible. And we look at our own work via the gaffer tape and the glue and think, ooh, that's only just sort of held together. When in fact that guy's rhythm performance was probably as good as anyone on a record by his favourite artist.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just he saw it being put together and therefore saw the gaffer tape.
We're judging people's highlight reel to our sort of behind the scenes.
Exactly. Everyone's Instagram life versus your life. It's a very different story.
Yeah, I think it doesn't help also that some artists like to wax lyrical retrospectively about they had the creative flow, and I've struggled with this a lot of times. They sort of, artists wanting to feel the thing that they read that somebody else felt in an interview. And when you were part of the record, that's not how it was made at all.
Absolutely.
People like to say
that
it was
might be
one
their
take,
memory of it now. But
yeah,
that
probably
wasn't
now
what
once
actually
you've
happened.
comped 15 takes together and I just came in and I did it. And that sort of narrative goes out there. And I think that doesn't help new artists to understand that it can be a struggle and it can be ugly, and it just is about what comes out of the speakers at the end of the day.
I find a lot of new artists are really surprised when I tell them that X, obviously, as we said, we worked in Metropolis, we worked with the biggest artists in the world because that's who came through the doors, and we happen to be behind the doors. And when you tell them that, like, the finest singers in pop music or the most successful singers or guitarists or whatever, like that solo on that record, that's a comp. Like, he didn't play it like that. He played 8 solos and we comped together one that sounded really good. And it's the same with the best singers you've ever heard. The ones on the record are comps. They're not one performance straight down. Just almost never happens like that. When they sort of realise, they go, oh, okay, so I don't need to be able to do this in one take. Absolutely not. Nobody does. There is no need.
No. Well, the only time I've really seen that go down in one take was Tom Jones.
Oh, really? Interesting.
I assisted.
Right.
Actually, I engineered the Tom Jones thing, where it's like, I think he had his shirt off by take 2. We did three takes, and they were all amazing.
I'm starting to remember a couple now as well. I shouldn't say all this, but Roger Daltrey.
The thing is on that is because by that point he'd been doing that for 50 years. Like, he should be good by now.
And the vibe of that vocal is also not a studied performance. It was a kind of live take. That was the spirit of the performance.
Sort of
you know what I mean?
Idea. Yeah.
It's not. I mean, the interesting thing is, like, I remember seeing. I don't know if you guys have seen it. That little clip of Billie Eilish and Phineas talking about her vocal edits, and it's almost the opposite. It's almost the opposite extreme. She's editing syllables, which I haven't done for a long time. But with her records, it makes sense. You know what I mean? Okay, it's every breath you hear, every detail.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's the appropriate production thing for her. But yeah, singers that do it in one take. I mean, I can't remember the last time I used a whole take.
No, it's also a weird restriction to put on yourself. That is quite an odd thing. Even people that I've worked with who've been legendary, they'll do a few takes just in case. Let's see. Yeah.
Well, the magic is often in the way the voice breaks or the stuff they didn't intend to control.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? The little guttural thing at the end of the line.
It out again. I mean, it's partly, you talk about Tom Jones and I mentioned Roger Daltrey. Back in the day, that's how it was. They often did a performance. And I remember if Roger, he's like, that's that one. Do you want another one? And he went in and he did an entirely different persona.
Different style, yeah.
Different style.
Wow.
And that was take 2. And at no point was he thinking I'd comp between the two. Those are the two.
Right.
But they're of that era and that the performance is everything and they don't mind the little cracks, as you
said. A few
said.
bits are out of tune or a few bits...
Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah.
The things like tuning, the bar was very different previously before auto-tune came along and before we could do this level of chopping.
Yeah.
I mean, we recorded on tape, didn't we all? And you would record 3 vocal takes and then comp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even, I remember listening back to some Beatles stuff. This was years ago when I first started working in studios. So I sort of started to be aware of these kind of things. And it was one of the bigger songs. And it was like, did you not want to tune your guitar up before you played? It isn't tuned at all.
And we got to do some of the transfers for, say, Rolling Stones. We've all been a part of legendary multi-tracks and you listen and think, wow, this almost sounds raggedy and not complete. But when you get that balance just right, there's the magic. There's the record we all knew and loved.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of in 2026, and we were having this conversation in our meeting, the experts team meeting as well, that I think there was a stage in music where like everything was tuned within an inch of its life and had to be absolutely perfect. And we've moved past that.
Good.
We've got Olivia Dean, we've got Ray, we've got lots of people who are absolutely incredible vocalists. And you can even hear in there, I'm pretty sure I've heard Ray sing a note that's not entirely in tune and it sounds beautiful.
Of course, it's human.
So I'm really happy. I love, I think we're humanising.
Billie Holiday sang flat all the time.
Exactly. And
doesn't matter. Didn't matter.
I remember actually once, this was quite mad. I remember once, must have been early 2000s, and Aid, you pulled me into studio and said, look at this, right? And it was, you'd been working with, I can't remember who, a female vocalist, pop vocalist, and you'd been asked to, you'd recorded the thing and they'd asked you to tune it as well, which wasn't particularly needed, but, they were of that kind of vibe. And we were used to seeing what a vocal looked like in a sort of auto-tune graph. You know what I mean? You see the raggedy lines of a human vocal. And she had sung in almost straight lines. And it was like, you have grown up listening to auto-tuned stuff. And now that is how you sing with an unnatural kind of level pitch, which is weird. Yeah. Really weird.
It is weird. I mean, I'm glad we're coming out the other side of that now. Do you know what I mean? I really hope, the whole backlash against AI and what I have no interest in listening to an AI vocal. Yeah.
No,
you know what I mean? Or AI create art. So I'm hoping there will be a backlash to that, It's funny though, I remember like there was it was a big record again, big female vocalist, and I remember listening to the record and going, they've deliberately left it flat, but it's not flat in a good way, it's just out of tune. And I remember thinking, why did they leave it? Because it wasn't flat in a cool Aretha Franklin, Billie Holiday, whatever kind of way. Yeah. It was a piano ballad, and you kind of go, they've left it flat because they think it's authentic. Yeah, but actually, I can hear the conversation in the control room. Oh no, man, it's vibey.
It's real.
Yeah. No, it's not great. Yeah. If that was me, I'd have asked them to sing it again or tuned it.
Right.
So there's that funny thing of like, when they're trying to be authentic, but it's inauthentic.
Right, yeah, absolutely,
And I don't know what that is, inability of the producer to
I think it's at the producer's
when
job, really,
something's good.
Decide that's good enough.
You can't fake authenticity. It's either authentic or it's not. If it if it's real at the time, you can't just suddenly say, let's plan to leave in an untuned note, and if it feels unnatural, that's not authentic. That's
it. It was that kind of weirdly planned wrongness.
Amazing.
Again, you'll have to show us that record at the end of the episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It takes a lot of confidence, though, doesn't it, to not go on the grid? I've always battled against Beat Detective and the grid, and I think because we came from an era of tape where you knew if the drums were a little bit wonky, the overdubs would fix that and validate it, and it would all be okay by the end. It takes something to leave a bit of vibe in, and hopefully we're all doing it more and more.
What I used to do with my students is I'd tell them to get a lead vocal, tune it entirely, and then have next to each other an untuned and a tuned one, like one that was pretty good, but properly tune it, the whole thing.
Yeah,
and then all you have to do is listen through to the song, jumping between those two vocals. And listen, check for your emotional response to the vocal and see how it changes. And if you do that, there's quite a marked difference between a tuned and an untuned vocal. You immediately feel the untuned vocal much more than the tuned one. Much as the tuned one's easier to mix, which I think is why a lot of people will head that way.
I think it's a fear as well. It's a fear of like, if I'm producing this record and the vocal is perfectly tuned, I can't be accused of doing a bad job. Do you know what I mean? It's like maybe a confidence thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's like you don't have to tune everything. Like you don't have to fix all the drums and everything. Yeah,
I remember.
It depends on the style of music.
I remember once being told by a producer I was engineering for him, and there was a bass part, and he said, "Fix the worst 4 errors of timing." So go through them all, just pick the worst 4 and fix them, and apart from that, it's fine. Yeah. It's a bit arbitrary, but it's quite good.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Have some kind of rule, because otherwise, as you said, you just keep going until it's all on the grid.
Exactly.
You've got bland
you don't
audio
stop.
wallpaper that doesn't move you.
And
at
I
all.
would have felt, as his engineer, I've done a good job. I fixed it all. Which is not what you wanted.
Yeah.
No.
Well, exactly. It's this, we want to get it out of this rigid thought structure of rules to basically just what feels right, like you said, Dom. It's does it feel right? Does it sound right? Are we listening? Are we making a judgment based on how the emotion of the piece, or is this just what we feel we should do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else that you'd like to add? This is such an interesting chat, honestly.
I don't know. You guys? Aid, have you got to go? Are you okay? Or?
Well, no, I mean, whatever. It's a mastering session. They can make a start without me. So He knows what he's doing. Yeah.
Say hello.
Say hello. Yeah.
I will.
No, I think it's interesting that you guys saying you feel records are getting past that period of perfection, which is great to hear. And I think some live acts are confident enough to be doing that too. I'm seeing some bands playing with just a click track, which sounds radical, but many bands have a lot of tape and a lot of stuff going on. And some people even losing the click, which is fantastic. It's great to see big-ish bands getting back to saying, no, we're going to feel this on the day. And I hope that young audiences appreciate that and want that live thing, because one of my fears is that they get used to homogenized stuff and say AI and then lean into AI more and more and more. So it's this kind of...
Well, actually, fortunately, I have very good news for you. It is the opposite is happening. So Gen Z are more than any other generation watching live music and going to the cinema. They want that experience of being in the moment and seeing. They still hold their phones up at the gigs, so we have
we need to stop that. How do we take
it?
that?
What Fred again did, I thought it was genius. He said, no phones at the gigs, and when you leave the venue, you will get, some hours later, presumably, you'll get a link sent to you of all our professional photos that we took at the gig, which only you will get. So then you get much better photos and video clips than you do from holding your phone up. They're not going to the press. It's not for that. It's just for the people at the concert, so they can share it on their own things. They've not shared a link off, the Sun or the NME or something's webpage.
That's great.
So, I think it's a brilliant idea. And
it's funny when you see the clips. Sorry, like Prodigy in the 90s or something. You see all these gigs that we were at.
Yeah, I was there.
And there were no phones, and the crowd are going insane. And you just it cuts to gigs these days. I mean,
I don't understand. Like, honestly, like whenever anybody posts a clip of a gig they've videoed from with their phone, it sounds awful, looks awful. It's like, are you seriously like spending time listening back to the 20 minutes, half an hour of the gig that you filmed?
Your own time?
Well, this is it, because this footage is so bad. I'm not jealous that I wasn't there.
It's like awful. It's not doing anybody any favors,
Not triggering FOMO at all.
Nothing.
I mean, to be fair, Coldplay do quite an interesting. One of the songs, Chris just says, "Right, all of you, phones away," and everybody does it because they don't want to be called out by then. And you can see these young people suddenly going, "Oh wow!" and the reaction is so much better. But then that feeds into the band performing better, and the energy kind of spirals. And this one song in the set is much better than the rest,
and a catalyst presumably for the rest of it.
They still then get their phones out for the next song. But
and actually, I've noticed because I've seen a couple of things. It was a couple of weeks ago of Florence and the Machine gig, and I'm a big fan of Florence. I think she's amazing, and I noticed on the comments people were saying, you shouldn't have had this, you shouldn't have posted. Apparently, I wasn't aware of this. She has a no phones rule, and the other fans start stamping on people when they post footage from the gigs. They're like policing themselves on this. Yeah, you shouldn't have posted this. You shouldn't have had your phone out.
I think maybe that's a little harsh, but
I love it. Go for it.
Well, if it works.
I don't know.
No phones then. That's been a topic.
There we go.
That's careful
cropped
phone
up
use.
again and again, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Phones swamping creativity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. Brilliant. So what do you guys have for the future? Any cool projects we'd like to...
I'm always up for a shameless plug, but it's not necessarily... It's my multiband.io, which is just the only place to go to have your sessions. It's basically a session organised, designed for producers and engineers and musicians by me, a producer-engineer, although not musician. And it's just a place to keep all your projects organised, keep communication with the people that you're working with really easy, and actually the professional tier, which is like the top one, I'm working on right now and will be out very soon. And I've been working on it with the Strong Room, which is very nice of them to sort of work with me on it and get some great kind of feedback from them. Been working on it massively with Matt and Aid as well, who are my feedback ground zero for all the sort of ideas I have for doing it, and have been really helpful in how it would be useful for them, how they would use it. So that is going to be out very soon. And I mean, the producer level is out already, so you can go into multiband.io and check it out today.
It's great. I use it. Great. I use it. Absolutely.
So that's my shameless plug. There you go. Do that.
Nice one. Any other shameless plugs?
No.
I've got a couple of projects coming out. I can't really mention yet, not because they're super big,
me
but
neither.
until it's signed off over the line. But I'm very excited. One of them being a band where hopefully we can go to a residential studio.
Nice.
I can get the phones turned off in 3-hour sessions, which will be great.
Yeah.
I've just mixed a show for the Sydney Opera House, which is
Cool.
fantastic. I love Matt. He's such a
Nice.
lovely man.
Nice.
Such a gentleman. Everybody in his team, he always has the same people, which is very rare these days.
Bit of loyalty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a really good thing. He's such a wonderful guy. I've just been in Hungary actually working with a bunch of new artists. The government there fund bringing British producers out there. I'll try and get you
Oh, right.
guys
Really?
involved in this.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's quite exhausting. You
yeah.
have like 2 different artists a day.
Wow.
And you have 4 hours with them, and it's just so
Wow,
intense.
that's intense.
But it's amazing how grateful they are and how much impact you can have. Because
Yeah.
some of them just don't have the confidence. Yeah, it's when I sort of work in Europe a fair bit, and you suddenly realise that we have this inner confidence about how we approach music. We have no problem going, just start again, distort that, do that, break that, and we don't. Sometimes in sort of towards Eastern Europe, I find bands are listening to more references, like trying to follow, trying to be very worried about coming away from the sound that they're chasing. And I guess it makes sense because we take for granted that we're at the epicenter of European music. And we've been around huge bands who have no problem just doing whatever they fancy in the moment. And we've grown up doing that.
Yes.
And I didn't realise how lucky that we have that skill and that kind of, not arrogance, our confidence.
Confidence, yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain cachet, like to being an English engineer that's worked with all those kind of artists, in the time periods that we have. I mean, like, funny you talk about Hungary, like I'm in the middle of finishing 2 Korean projects for a very similar thing. Like I went out to Korea 15 years ago, again on some kind of Korean government-sponsored thing.
Cool.
Worked with a couple of bands, and I've got clients from them, the same bands, but also their friends and their mates and whoever. And it was that thing of, I had to do like master classes and stuff while I was out there, give a couple of talks as well as work in the studios, But yeah, there is something about that where maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe they make records. I don't know how they normally make records in Korea.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? But there's something about maybe like the way the English engineers do things where it's, you go for something in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's what we generally have a reputation for over the decades of English engineers being a bit more, maybe sort of rough and ready rather than polished, but creative and exciting.
And going for something.
I think that's which obviously it's a generalisation, and we all know people who we could name that would be the exact opposite of that, and possibly would be seen on a global basis of more following the American tradition. But we also, because of our history, we've all seen people that do that a lot. So we can definitely drop into that when we want to.
I think that's a good thing to call on as part of our sort of heritage.
Yeah.
Sort of rugged, not punk necessarily, but kind of,
confidence
like you
to
say.
Mess it up or do. Yeah. I didn't realise until I went away that we had this inner confidence to do that, and that was a unique thing that we were lucky to have.
Yeah, I get that.
It's nice to travel.
Yeah, it's a bit like when I started teaching at unis, and you sort of you don't realise how much you know from having. This was 10 years ago, and I started from having worked 20 years. You don't realise how much you know until you're talking to someone who's only been doing it for 5 years, and then this thing that you've been doing for a decade that you think is old news. They're not there yet. They haven't got to that bit. So you realise you've actually got quite a lot you can share, and they can learn from. So similar kind of realisation. Oh, I do know something. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
This will be more useful to them than I thought it would be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. That's been amazing.
Cool. Very welcome.
Brilliant. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, it's been fun.
I better AI my air conditioning noise out of this vocal.
I'm all jealous that you've got air conditioning.
Well, that's all we have time for, but thank you very much to Dom, Matt and Adrian, and we'll be back next time for another edition of the Production Expert Podcast.